everyone. So, in the previous lectures, the velocity and acceleration at a point in a fluid flow without taking into consideration the forces causing the flow. See, in the fluid kinematics, we without consideration of forces, we learn about the velocity and acceleration at a point in a fluid flow. So in this particular fluid dynamics, we'll study the forces causing the fluid flow. So the dynamics of fluid flow is the study of fluid motion with the forces causing flow. The dynamic behavior of the fluid flow is analyzed by the Newton's second law of motion, which gives the relation with the acceleration and the forces. See, in the previous lecture, fluid kinematics, without consideration of forces, fluid dynamics is the consideration of the forces. That's the one major difference you need to understand here. Another thing is that here the fluid motion will be analyzed by the Newton's second law of motion, which relates the acceleration with the forces. Here, the fluid is assumed to be incompressible and non-viscous. Okay. So coming to the equations of motion, first dynamics of fluid. Dynamics of fluid is defined as the branch of science which deals with the study of fluids in motion considering the forces which cause the flow. See, in kinematics, without consideration of forces, the velocity and acceleration at a particular point in a fluid flow is determined. Here, by considering the forces in motion. Here forces means that may be a gravity force, that may be a pressure force, that may be a viscous force, that may be a compressible force, that may be a turbulent force. See, there are a lot of forces which cause the fluid in about these forces which cause the flow. Okay, below. Generally, these forces are classified into three types. One is the body or volume forces, surface forces, linear forces. I told you that generally body or volume forces, these are proportional to the volume of body. Example we can see here, weight or centrifugal force. Coming to the surface forces, these are proportional to the surface area. Example is of pressure force, shear and tangential force, turbulence force, force of compressibility, and etc. Coming to the linear forces which are proportional to length here, one is example is the surface tension. Simply we can say that forces are nothing but the one dimensional, that is the linear forces, two dimensional, that is nothing but the surface forces, and three dimensional, that is nothing but the volume forces. Because in a one dimensional we'll consider only one axis that related to the length is a proportional to length, that is the surface tension force. Whereas in a two dimensional we consider both axes x and y, that gives the length and width also, that is the area, that gives about the area, surface area, like a pressure force, shear or tangential force, turbulence force, and force. Coming to the volume forces, volume forces are proportional to three dimensional axes like x, y, and z. These are proportional to the volume of the body. Example you can say that centrifugal force or weight force. Okay, so these are the different type of the forces which are acting on a fluid flow motion. Okay, so simply we can say that the dynamics of fluid flow is nothing but the branch of the science which deals with the study of fluids in motion, considering the forces which cause the law. Here the forces which are we need to consider: body forces, surface forces, linear forces. Okay, so according to Newton's second law of motion, according to Newton's second law of motion, Newton's according to Newton's according to Newton's second law of motion, the net force is acting on a fluid element in a direction which is equal to the mass of the fluid element and multiplied by the acceleration in the same direction, that is given as, for example, let us consider a direction as x direction. Then the net force acting on a fluid element will be the force will be mass into acceleration due to gravity. Here we can see that forces acting on a fluid motion, the various forces that may influence are due to gravity, or pressure, viscosity, turbulence, or surface tension and compressibility. I told you that there are various forces that may be present uh, according to Newton's second law of motion. We know that according to Newton's second law of motion, the net force acting on a particle that will be is equal to the product of mass and acceleration due to gravity, acceleration here. So let's see here, F is equal to ma. Here this equal to the gravity force, pressure force, viscous force, turbulence force, surface tension force and compressibility force. Here Newton's law that maybe give the all the forces. So coming to the Reynolds equation of motion. So Reynolds equation of motion is about the laminar, viscous and turbulences are neglected. See, from the Newton's second law of motion, here we consider gravity, pressure, viscous, turbulence, surface and compressible. So by neglecting these surface tension and compressible forces, we'll get the equation as, for Reynolds equation is gravity, pressure, viscous and turbulence. Coming to the Navier-Stokes equation, here, here the turbulence is neglected here. Again the equation is written as gravity, pressure and viscous forces. Again from the Euler's equation motion, if the flow is ideal, viscous force is also insignificant. See, flow is ideal is an assumption only. Most of the cases the flow may not be ideal. Okay, but we have the assumption that the flow is ideal. Definitely viscous force is also insignificant, because ideal flow will not have any viscosity. That's no, we already know that. So finally the Euler's equation of motion is given as sum of the gravity forces and pressure forces. This is very important thing here. According to Newton's second law of motion, the net force acting will be equal to the gravity, pressure, viscous, turbulence, surface tension and compressible forces. But coming to the Reynolds equation, By neglecting these surface tension and compressible forces, the remaining equation is rewritten. That is, Reynolds equation of motion gives about gravity, pressure, viscous and turbulence, whereas Navier-Stokes equation is given as pressure and viscous by neglecting turbulence forces, whereas in Euler's equation of motion for the fluid is ideal, we consider gravity and pressure. These only the Bernoulli's equation is derived from of motion. Okay, so these are all about that. So in Euler's equation of motion, if the fluid is ideal, the forces will be acting is gravity and pressure only. These we need to understand here. Okay. So coming to the Bernoulli's equation, I told you that generally in Euler's equation of motion, the forces due to gravity and pressure are taken into consideration. So these will be derived by taking a fluid element. Okay. So let us see here. So generally the Euler's equation is given as pressure element and gravity element only. So this is the Euler's equation of motion. By integrating of Euler's equation of motion for steady, incompressible and friction flow, which gives the Bernoulli's equation. See, by integrating this equation, by integrating this Euler's equation of motion, we'll get here. Generally, if flow is incompressible, first thing is flow is incompressible. So flow is incompressible means definitely the density will be constant. Density will be constant. So, the equation will be P by rho plus Gz plus V square by 2 equal to constant. Again, if we have rewrite the equation, we'll get here. Again, by rewriting equation, we'll get P by rho G plus Z plus V square by 2G is equal to constant. Okay. So that what the here this Bernoulli's equation is obtained by integrating the Euler's equation of motion, which is given here. From the Euler's equation of motion we'll get here. So by integrating this equation we'll get the Bernoulli's equation. We already know that flow is incompressible. So if the flow is incompressible, I mean definitely the density will be constant. So that we'll get the equation as P by rho plus square by 2 is equal to constant. Again, by dividing with the acceleration due to gravity, we'll get the equation rewritten as P by rho g plus z plus v square by 2g is equal to constant here. The same equation is also written here. The W is the specific weight that is given as a rho z. Okay. Plus v square by 2g plus z is equal to constant. So this P by rho g, that is P by W, is nothing but the pressure energy per unit weight of fluid. We say generally this is the pressure energy per unit weight of fluid, or pressure head, the term is called as. Another one is the V square by 2g. This is kinetic energy per unit weight or kinetic head. Another one is the jet. Jet is the potential energy per unit weight or potential head. So this is the equation which is for the ideal fluids. Simply we can say that the three terminology. One is the P by rho g. Another one is the V square by 2g. Another one is the z here. So the term W is nothing is equal to rho g, because specific weight is defined as product of density and acceleration due to gravity. So the term P by rho g is known as the pressure energy per unit weight of fluid, or simply potential, or simply the pressure head. Okay. Coming to that, V square by 2g, kinetic energy, kinetic energy per unit weight, or simply we can say that kinetic head. Third one is the jet, that is the potential energy per unit weight, or simply potential head. So there are, in the Bernoulli's equation there are three terminology. One is the pressure head, kinetic head and potential head. Simply Bernoulli's equation is the sum of the pressure head, kinetic head and potential head. Okay. So coming to the assumptions uh, which are made in the derivation of Bernoulli's equation. See, there are various assumptions are made. The first one is the flow is steady. So another one is the flow is irrotational. Here, first assumption is that flow is steady. Steady, I told you that in the previous classes. Steady means at a point in a fluid motion, the fluid characteristic like velocity, acceleration does not change with respect to time. That's nothing but the steady. So does not change. That means that will be the constant that does not change with respect to time. It's nothing but the steady. Another one assumption is that flow is irrotational. Generally, I told you that if the fluid particles, while moving in the direction of flow, do not rotate about their centers, then nothing but a irrotational flow. In irrotational flow, I told you that only for ideal fluids only these irrotational flow will exist. Okay. If the liquid particles, while moving in the direction of flow, do not rotate about their centers, is nothing but the irrotational flow. These irrotational flow exist for ideal fluids only. I told you that ideal fluids. Okay. The third one is the flow is incompressible. I told you that incompressible is nothing but the density will be the constant. Another one is the flow is not viscous. So that's what non-viscous means. Viscous means will be having flowing. There's a density will be there. Non-viscous means density is constant. Okay. Another one is the flow is continuous. So always the flow will be continuous. This will not be possible, but the flow, the assumption is flow is continuous, and velocity is uniform over a cross section. Finally, the flow is a ideal. So these are the assumptions which are made in Bernoulli's equation. One is the flow is steady. Flow is steady. That means the fluid characteristics like velocity and acceleration does not change with time. Another one is the irrotational. Liquid particles, while moving the direction of flow, do not rotate about their center. Another one is the incompressible. In density will be constant, and non-viscous. Here also density will be constant, and flow is always continuous, and velocity will be uniform, and finally the flow is ideal fluid. So these are the all assumptions which are made in this equation derivation. Okay, you need to mainly understand that Bernoulli's equation is the sum of the three terms, that is the potential, pressure energy, kinetic energy, and potential energy. There's a potential head and assumptions. These are the very important. Under one note here, it is all applicable to all points in the flow fluid. For all the streamlines, the value of constant is same. Okay. So coming to the next slide, kinetic energy correction factor. See, this kinetic energy correction factor is denoted by alpha. In one-dimensional method of analysis, the average velocity is used to represent the velocity at a cross-section. The actual velocity distribution in the cross-section may be non-uniform. Here, non-uniform means the flow characteristics like velocity and acceleration will be changing with respect to the length. Hence, the kinetic energy calculated by using must be multiplied by correction factor to obtain the kinetic energy at the cross section due to non-uniform velocity distribution. See, kinetic energy correction factor is needed when we consider the calculation of kinetic energy. Okay, because here the actual velocity in cross section will be non-uniform. For non-uniform velocity distribution, definitely there we need one correction factor, that is the kinetic energy correction factor, that is denoted by alpha. Okay, so here we can see the equation also. Alpha is equal to 1 by a integration of u by v whole cube dA. Here u is equal to velocity at a point. For uniform velocity distribution, this kinetic energy correction factor is given as 1. For laminar flow is 2. For turbulent flow, 1.01 to 1.20. For gate examination, these values are very important. For uniform velocity distribution, the kinetic energy correction factor will be alpha is equal to 1. For laminar flow through a pipe, alpha is equal to 2. For turbulent flow through a pipe is 1.01 to 1.20. Okay, so these values are very important. You need to understand here. Okay, this is about the kinetic energy correction factor. Coming to that, so these before Bernoulli's theorem. So I told you that generally the statement of Bernoulli's theorem is, in a steady ideal flow for an incompressible fluid, the total energy at any point of the fluid is constant. The total energy consisting of pressure energy, kinetic energy, and potential energy. So this is the Bernoulli's theorem statement. So based on the Bernoulli's theorem, there are some applications. These applications are, see, I told you that generally Bernoulli's equation is applied in all problems of incompressible fluid flow. Incompressible means where there will be a density will be constant. Bernoulli's equation is applied in all problems of incompressible fluid flow where energy considerations are involved. Coming to the of the following measuring devices, there are three devices only there. One is the Venturi meter, orifice meter, another one is the pitot tube. See, Venturi meter is the one of the device used for rate of flow measuring. See, first let us see the first one. So these are all applications. So these are all applications of Bernoulli's equation. See the applications of Bernoulli's equation by considering the incompressible fluid flow. First one is the venturimeter. So venturimeter is a device used for measuring the rate of flow of a fluid flowing through a pipe. It is used for determining the rate of flow. Okay, that is the nothing but the discharge. Coming to that, this venturimeter consists of following parts. One is the an inlet section, that is the U tube. Another one is the converging zone and throat. Another one is the diverging cone. See, first one is the inlet section U tube, and second one is the converging zone, and third one is the throat. This will be the throat here. Okay. Another one is the diverging zone. That is diverging cone will be here. So these will be the inlet. These will be the inlet. Okay. So this venturimeter is used for measuring the discharge in the pipes. There is nothing but the rate of flow of liquid. Okay. This is very important. Venturimeter is used for determining the discharge in pipes. This is the rate of flow of liquid. So generally, the theoretically discharge is given as QTH is equal to A1 A2 into square root of 2GH by square root of A1 square minus A2 square. Here QTH is nothing but the theoretical discharge. A1 is the area of cross section at inlet. This is the inlet cross sectional area. A2 is the area of the cross section of the throat. So this will be the A1. This will be the A2. Okay. So this is about the venturimeter. Venturimeter is a device which is used for measuring the discharge in a pipe or the rate in a pipe. Both are same, rate of flow or discharge. Coming to the second one, that is the orifice meter. Orifice meter is also same purpose. Orifice meter is a device which is used for measuring the rate of flow of a fluid through a pipe. See, venturimeter and orifice meter having the same purpose. These also the device used for measuring the discharge only. There is a discharge or rate of flow through the pipes. But thing is that it is a cheaper device comparing with the venturimeter. It is a cheaper device compared to venturimeter. So orifice meter is also working on the same principle of the venturimeter. It consists of a flat circular plate which has a circular sharp edged, okay, hole called orifice. This is called as the orifice. So it consists of a flat circular plate which has a circular sharp edged hole called orifice, which is concentric with the pipe. These orifice diameter is generally kept as 0.5 times the diameter of the pipe. through 0.4 to 0.8 times the diameter. It may vary from 0.4 to 0.8 times the pipe diameter here section, from 2 times the pipe diameter upstream from the orifice plate. So these the orifice meter which is used for measuring the discharge through the pipes. Same equation here also there. Q is equal to A1 A2 square root of 2GH by square root of A1 square minus A2 square. Here A1 is the area of pipe at here section 1, and another one is the here section 2. Okay. So this is about the orifice meter. Coming to that vortex motion, a rotating a fluid is known as vortex, and the motion of rotating mass of fluid is known as vortex. See, these vortex of motion is very important in very applications. Okay, so let's see about this. A rotating fluid is known as vortex, and the motion of rotating mass of fluid is known as vortex motion. There are two types of vortex motion. One is the free vortex motion, another one is the forced vortex motion. In free vortex motion, in which the fluid mass rotates without any external force being impressed on it due to some internal action or due to rotation previously impacted to it. Hence, no expenditure of energy from any external source takes place. Example is whirlpool in a river, wash basin, flow of liquid, flow. Simply, we can say that free vortex motion means the mass of the fluid will be rotated without energy, without any external force acting on it. So, in a wash basin, without any external force only, the total water will be through a outlet will be down. Another one is the forced vortex motion. Forced vortex motion occurs when a constant torque is applied by a fluid mass. So this is a simple difference. In free vortex motion, there will be no external force. In forced vortex motion, there will be a external torque will be applied on a fluid mass to rotate it. Example: cylinder rotated about its vertical axis at a constant angular velocity. In most of the times, these are asked about the free vortex motion and forced vortex motion. In free vortex motion, there will be no external torque applied on a fluid mass to rotate the fluid. Example is the wash basin. Another one is the forced vortex flow, in which an external force is required to rotate a fluid mass. Example is the cylinder rotated about its vertical axis at a constant angular velocity applied to a fluid mass. Okay. So coming to that impulse momentum equation. So impulse momentum equation, which is based on the law of conservation of momentum and which is derived from Newton's second law. This is also called as a applicable to control volume also. Impulse momentum equation is based on law of conservation of momentum and is derived from Newton's second law. The law of conservation of momentum says generally states that rate of change of momentum with respect to that will be constant. So it is derived from the Newton's second law. The equation is applicable to the control volume. So while choosing a control volume, these are the things we need to consider. Size and shape is arbitrary, coincides with solid boundary, draw normal to flow direction, should cut across the supports to include external reaction. Okay. So coming to the momentum equation, it states that the net force acting on a fluid mass is equal to the change in momentum per second. Simply we can say that the net force acting on a fluid mass is equal to the rate of change of momentum per second, that is dm by dt. Rate of change of momentum with respect to the time, that is nothing but the net force acting here. Here momentum is generally defined as the term called pv, that is nothing but mass into velocity. Product of mass into velocity is the momentum. So understanding everyone here, impulse momentum equation is based on law of conservation of momentum based on the Newton's second law of motion. Momentum equation states that the net force acting on a fluid mass is equal to the change in momentum per second. Mathematically, F is equal to dm by dt. Here m is nothing but the momentum. Simply we can say that equation as F is equal to d of mv by dt. We know that mass is always constant, so that again we can write as m into dp by dv by dt. So these are equation, impulse momentum equation. F is equal to m into d of v by dt. I told you that m is equal nothing but the momentum is nothing but the mass into velocity here. So impulse momentum equation states that the impulse of a force acting on a fluid mass in a short interval of time, which is equal to the change of momentum in the direction for force. Okay, so this is the statement of the momentum equation. Okay, so simply we can say that F into dt is equal to m into dv. Okay, if the flow is steady and incompressible, the momentum equation can be written as in x direction, in y direction, rho q v2x minus v1x, rho q v2 by minus v1. This is the change of velocity. Okay, so this is the density and discharge. The term rho qv is nothing but the internal force, that's a product of density, discharge, momentum flux. Inertial force, product of density, acceleration and velocity, and inertial force is called as a momentum flux. Okay, this is the impulse momentum equation. Coming to that, so in the previously we discussed about the kinetic energy correction factor. I told you that when the fluid flow motion is non-uniform, in the non-uniform motion we need to calculate the kinetic energy, means we need a one factor, that is the kinetic energy correction. The kinetic energy correction factor is nothing but alpha. For uniform flow it will be 1, and for turbulent flow 1.1 to 2.0, and for laminar flow it will be 2. I told you that. Similarly, the momentum correction factor, these also considered. Momentum correction factor is beta is equal to 1 by a v square integration v square dA. Okay, so if the velocity is uniform for laminar flow, the velocity is uniform, there will be 1 for beta, same alpha will be the same 1 will be here for a uniform flow. But for laminar flow, the momentum correction factor will be the 1.332. For turbulent flow will be 1.02 to 1.05. This is very important. Kinetic energy correction factor and momentum correction factor are frequently asked the questions. Okay, so try to remember for uniform both the kinetic energy and momentum correction factor will be 1. For laminar flow there will be a changes, alpha will be 2 and beta will be 1.33. For turbulent flow alpha will be 1 and for turbulent flow for beta will be 0.05. So these are the changes you need to observe here. Okay.